Having a fantastic day, and welcome back to 922. We're going to left off of apparently telling Ian, well, at least in my mind, Spencer telling Ian, I guess, everything kind of stupidly. I don't know why he's doing this, but we're going to have to figure out why and go from there. So let's continue where we left off, and before we get into it, of course, you should check out my Discord server in the pinned comment down below if you want to join a furry and or a non-furry Discord server, where people can chat about games and memes and what movies their favorite and everything. There's a channel for literally everything, much to the dismay of many Zoomers who can't keep track of 30,000 channels that all are about their subcategories of people's interests. Oh my. But otherwise, hey, we're going to get back into it while I'm sitting on a nice heating pad melting my lower back, and let's get into it for the third time. Yeah. That's a story. That it is. He flips the charm in his palm back and forth. And you're saying, I'll remember it this time around. If you remember it tomorrow, then you remember it forever, as far as I can tell. Huh. Sorry, it sounds like bullshit. It's not that. No, not a chance. I believe you. I think. I've never heard a more convincing account in my life. It's just that... He remained silent for a minute. I don't want to interrupt him. I've just confirmed that his wacky conspiracy theories are real and admitted to some pretty awful shit at the same time. God knows I'd be at a loss for words. What's the verdict? The verdict, huh? Gosh, I don't know. Like, you know all those stories about farmers getting abducted and probed by aliens? Your story is just like that. Like you're the center of this massive government cover-up, and it's all a ploy to let swamp gas out of your ass. It's all a little... He makes a twisty gesture with his hand. You get what I'm saying? And I can't tell anyone because the world will end? Yeah, something like that. Maybe, probably. Not in any fun way. Either that or the CIA gets her asses. Or Fisher does. I see. What? That's the part that gets me most, you know? I've been following this stuff for years and I've never heard of this guy. Not until he approached me a couple of weeks ago to threaten me out of the blue. Well, that's his trick with the gate, right? One of the worlds gets overwritten, so he literally scrubs himself out of history. I wonder about that. What do you mean? Why would he decide to suddenly start approaching people so personally? How come both of us remember that he never showed up to deliver his speech? I mean, I swear I remember that speech. But, as I said in the prior/previous video, I'm going to assume at that point we're still, like, basically either playing... Like, at some point early in the game, I believe, and this is from, like, anecdote and my poor fuzzy memory since, again, 2 years ago, I'm going to assume we started the game basically unbeknownst to us. We were playing Spencer A or Spencer B, and a lot of the stuff we did see happened, but just a lot of it didn't happen, but Spencer or us, the reader, saw it, because we were going through the eyes of David, or... We were, at some points, or continuously, who knows, not sure if it was just early in or it just happens at random without being told, that we sometimes are seeing days happen through the eyes of the other mirror place that is not the dominant one. I don't know, there's a lot of things to be confusing, so I'm going to have to keep going, but it's just a bunch of things to think about. How come both of us remember that he never showed up to deliver his speech? And how can such a person afford to speak to me, and you, and a dozen other people? If he really is the cause of everything, if he's the poltergeist, it's just not how he behaves, and besides... Don't things leak? Isn't that what he told you in so many words? It does align with what's been going on. Ian's saying there's an inconsistency with what he's saying. Parts of your story, Spencer. He forcefully shoves the charm into his pocket. What part? What parts? Never mind. The crazies we've been interviewing and the written down stuff that's been left behind. There's a reason we've always thought it was some kind of entity. If what you're saying is true, we were right on the money about that. Most of our high-priority accounts refer to someone or something that they can't quite recall. All of them, come to think of it. Anyway, I suppose that's that. What's what? I'll handle the group. If I can't tell them anything, then I'll have to come up with something to distract them with. Tell them that your involvement in it is all a big misunderstanding, and is entirely benign. Will they believe that? Not likely. Thanks for trusting me with this. I can't follow him at all. Did I somehow miss half of what he was telling me? Is he mad at me or not? The gate must have fucked with my head after all. I'm going to miss his stupid smile. Don't mention it. Feel like watching anything? Got a couple episodes downloaded on my phone. Just like that, huh? Maybe in a bit. There's something I want to ask you first. Me. Why you got any more earth-shattering revelations? I'm hesitating. All the head voices who were screaming so loudly before are now silent. My tongue feels heavy in my mouth, and I'm once again aware of the pain that's everywhere. I pretend to stretch by slowly planting my palms on my knees. This is fear. Sort of. I recognize it as fear, but what am I suddenly so afraid of? It's just Ian. There's nothing to be afraid of. It's Fisher in a mask. There's a hole in my story. I was hoping that you would be able to help me with that. A hole? Question mark? This isn't a lewd joke, is it? There's a hole I need you to fill, Ian. ... The day I died, you remember it? My heart skips a beat. The smile's gone. I do. What of it? I had to keep going. There's nothing to lose. Let's get it done. Sorry to press you about it, but you mentioned it before. We were friends for longer than I remember, and you were with me right before I died. It's just that no one is able to tell me what happened back then. Figured I should ask. If you don't mind. The sound of rain occupies the air for a while. Ian sits hunched over, staring into the bushes opposite to us. I have no choice but to stare at him. Stare at them as well. I try calming myself down while he's thinking. Why do my hands feel so weak? It's just one loose end. That's the remaining. Once it's done, I'll be free. Yeah. We were together. On the day you died, the night before it, I mean. Damn. You know, I could tell you were going to ask about that. After telling me about the gate and the worlds and Fisher, yeah, there's no way you wouldn't. Kind of didn't expect you going into that today, though. You caught me a little off guard. My fingers grip down on my knees. You don't have to if you don't want to. I bite down on my tongue. I didn't mean to say that. Heh. Is that really what you think, Spencer? I don't expect you to recall this, since apparently we've been seeing each other all the time in the other world. But, from my perspective, you've been gone for a couple of weeks now. Do you happen to remember what was the last thing you told me before you disappeared? We're mature adults. I mean, was that during, like, the rain and sprinting thing? Or is that stuff that's just still remembered by everyone? That's what you... Oh, wait. Oh. We're mature adults. That's what you told me. You're talking about your dick. Bruh. I've been thinking about it a lot, you know? About Spencer's dick. Ah, Spencer went there too, no! About being more upfront about uncomfortable stuff, you jerk. After we had that conversation, after I told you about the group and everything, I thought I messed up. You stopped showing up to class almost immediately, and you never responded to messages or picked up your phone. Was that my fault? Right up until 20 minutes ago, I thought it was. It wasn't. That is a relief, but... I won't lie to you, Spencer. At first, it hurt real bad. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized that you were right. Nothing would have improved had we not spoken about it at the time, or worse, had we decided to pretend nothing was going on at all. What you told me just now, the whole situation with this Fisher person, only goes to show how true that is. It's like, yeah, sorry I died. No, I think I must tell you what happened that day. After you asked me about it, that genie ain't going back in the bottle. I straight up owe it to you. Most of it, anyway. My stomach tightens. Maybe I should have kept my idiot mouth shut. Most of it. Give me a minute, you'll see. He puffs his cheeks out and slowly exhales. Alright, so let's roll back to a couple of weeks after orientation. The big picture is that you and we've been hanging out for a few days by that point. I'd shown you what me and the group had been up to, like about the town and all the mysteries going on. In hindsight, you being friendly with that Fisher guy at the time explains why you were interested in what I had to say, but back then, it isn't every day that you meet someone who's that enthusiastic about the paranormal. The opposite, actually, most often. I figured you'd definitely want to join the group, so I spared no details. Yeah, you don't want to seem like a conspiracy nutcase, Ian, but, you know. Especially, I don't even know... Like, Spencer seems to have some kind of... From the memories he saw... Like, the memories we saw in the last episode, where military personnel was talking to what would have been Spencer, feels like an almost merge of... I'm going to assume that the worlds aren't perfectly identical, because I'm going to assume, and I could be completely wrong, but I'm trying to piece together the story a little bit before being told it. I want to see how accurate I am the more I'm adapting to the story's changes and getting more information, but I'm going to assume one of the Spencers worked with Fisher, like it was a grandson, grandpa working together kind of thing, but that Spencer B and Fisher, who is then, as he said, he's merged with A and B. He never said how or why. How is merging possible? Why and how did he merge? He's this special case of someone who says he's merged with his, but the others haven't merged. No one else has merged. And we have memories of Spencer talking in a way that doesn't sound like it'd be from a person who's just like acting and pretending to be someone else, but rather that one of the times, or one of the Mirror World's Spencer, A or B, that one of them perhaps like worked with Fisher, and there was like a conflict of interest at some point, which was why Spencer A or B tried to kill his grandpa, because there has to be some kind of narrative conflict that would make Spencer, in Spencer's character and in his interests, in his style, Spencer would be the kind of person in my mind that if he had a conflict and wanted to kill his grandpa, it would, one, have to be a big enough conflict to warrant killing a family member, and two, Spencer would be the kind of person who tried to attack someone when they let their guard down. Because Spencer's that kind of person. Spencer's just a weak kid, and Fisher's a grown-up who's killed before. So it makes sense that the half-truth would be Fisher telling Spencer that he doesn't know why Spencer tried to attack him at first, and it was totally in self-defense. it sounds like it's truth. It probably half is. But again, the reason why Spencer would want to attack him, or would probably feel like it'd be the best time to try to kill him, would be both a conflict of interest, as well as the fact that Spencer has to be motivated enough to have to strategize and scheme enough to be like, okay, well, if I have to get rid of my grandpa, who I perceive as going too far, and is an antagonist / evil, if I have to put him down, regardless of how powerful he is, I'm going to try to do it when his back is turned, at a casual hang together, where probably Spencer called his grandpa to come meet him at the gazebo, and try to have a chat, and then try to bash his skull in, while presenting it as a casual conversation, or, hey, we need to chat, or we need to have a serious conversation, and then, then boom, try to kill him, but he failed, got choked to death in the process, and then Fisher has to basically cover that up and be like, okay, well, I worked with my grandson, he tried to kill me, I covered it up, and now I'm trying to work with my other mirror grandson, while pretending like it wasn't, I'm assuming Fisher probably has some kind of potential god complex, or there's just more to it that he's not giving. But that'd have to mean there has to be so much more story remaining if my theory is even remotely true, because that's a lot of lore dropping they'll need to continue doing, right? But that's a big Neco rant. I don't know if I'm completely off the mark or on the mark. We're going to have to see. So hopefully you enjoyed my rant and aren't just going to be complaining, be like, Neco, stop ranting, shut the fuck up and read. I need events sometimes. Come on. But I hope you enjoyed my theory as it remains. If you've been spoiled and I'm right, don't spoil me in the comments. But if I'm wrong, we can keep going and see what happens. But that day I showed you something you didn't like. I've thought it over so many times that the memory is etched into the back of my skull. But the short of it is that you stood up and walked away. Just like that. Just like what? Walked away where? Did I say something? Sure didn't. What did you show me? See, that's the part I don't want to tell you. What do you think happened after you walked off that day? Oh. Yeah? You think whatever you showed me got me killed? He takes his hand out of his jacket and feels for his phone in his pants pocket. It lightly thuds against the metal seat. Yes, that is what I think. I spent weeks trying to figure out what exactly made you take off the way you did. See, it kind of lines up with my theory as is. Ian showed Spencer A/B, Dead Spencer, he showed him something probably relevant as to why something is up with Fisher. And after seeing that, Spencer called his grandpa to say we need to meet. Ian had to have shown him something that made him want to kill his grandpa, and then failed, and then it got himself killed. It lines with my theory, so that's good. He leans back and looks at the roof of the bus station as he takes a deep breath. Mere hours I discovered your body, you came right back from the dead, behaving as if nothing happened. As if you didn't know who I was. So I told the group about it, and they kind of took it in a way I didn't think they would. They weren't confused or terrified or anything like that, they were excited. I didn't know what to do or what to think, so I just joined them. That's what you get for believing in conspiracies and shit. Like, Ian, come on, you're going to start believing in the chemicals in the water and turn the freaking frogs gay too next. Although that is kind of true. Was that when you were doing your little investigation about me? Did you find anything? We did, but... But what? We never figured out how you were connected to that. Why did that make you flip out? What's that? His shoulders tighten. You're being awfully cool about this, don't you think? Can you really not see why I'm dancing around it? What, you're assuming the same thing will happen again? Don't worry about it. How can I not? I scratched the back of my neck. This is getting stupid. It isn't worth it to make him go through this just to sate my curiosity. I should stop. It's a bit of a leap to assume that, is all. Just because one thing happens and then another thing happens doesn't mean they're related. What if they are, though? What are the chances? Are you kidding? Like 100%. I can change the subject at any time. I could tell him, you know what, you're right, and forget all about it. I'll risk it. I'm not the same Spencer that died on that day. You'll risk it? Spencer, I'm telling you clear as day that you'll die. You didn't believe me when I said you were a ghost of whatever either. Can you please cut me some frickin' slack? My problem is... More Neco theorizing. I'm going to assume he's that confident because when Fisher threatened Ian, because he's threatened every person involved. He's threatened Andrew, threatened Kurt, threatened Spencer. I'm going to assume that if, again, I'm definitely sure I remember reading that Fisher threatened Ian. The fact that Fisher didn't confiscate Ian's evidence that he clearly says he still has, like, he's looked over Kurt's evidence, right? He hasn't taken any evidence away. It has to benefit him in some way, or just he doesn't care. Because if he wants people to not fuck around and find out, him not removing every scrap of evidence is suspicious in itself. It has to benefit him in some way to meddle. Just not meddle too much. Meddle enough that it creates a necessary counter push, or makes it so Fisher needs to find a solution that benefits him, kind of thing, right? But I'm going to assume Ian was told, do not show this. Like, there's some things Kurt can't say. There's some things Andrew shouldn't say and can't say. And there's things that Ian probably can't say. It just depends on whether or not Ian truly believes on his own suspicions that whatever he showed him got him killed, or it's just literally Fisher said, no, that's what got him killed. Show it to him again, he'll die again, and you'll die too. Do it! Kind of things, right? We don't know which one it is, and I find that at least a little interesting. Like, is Ian afraid because he was told by Fisher, no, that is it. No, yeah. But you just didn't take the evidence away. Because he apparently has something maybe on his phone, or else they wouldn't bring up the fact that he's holding his phone as if he's clutching a piece of evidence that he's just keeping to himself. But can you please cut me some frickin' slack? I think my entire chest cavity tries to pull the words from leaving my mouth. I think I have to know. Do I? Fisher killed me. He killed me, and he's saying it was in self-defense that I tried to kill him first. I can't stop thinking about it. The gate punched holes in my memory so much so that I can only recall bits and pieces of the past year. That other Spencer, he's me, but he's also literally not. I don't know the things that he knew. And it haunts me that I'm not him, and yet I am the same person in a sense. What could possibly be so important to me that I'd try to kill someone over it? Exactly what I said. Besides, I'm totally bracing for it. I promise I won't run off and get myself killed. My jaw tightens. Why must he keep looking at me like that? Spencer, I'm not stupid. I know that it must be important to you. It's just that... You don't get it, do you? You can't begin to imagine how relieved I was when you showed up at the 7-Eleven that evening. I didn't even know what to make of you. Like, who were you actually? You behaved as if you didn't know me, as if you fell right out of the sky. But then and there, I couldn't care less because you're alive. You. You don't know what it's like. Not to get overly sentimental, but remember when you asked me about the time I crashed my car? My family, Andrew, everyone is saying it's an act of God. Could have happened to anyone. They forgive me, that sort of thing. But my brother, you know? None of that will bring him back. None of that changes that I killed him. And then I killed you. Don't you get what I'm saying? You want me to kill you again? Spencer, you kind of suck. It's exactly what I'm thinking. Ian's trying to say that Spencer's being selfish and only considering what he wants and what's of his interest. But, I don't know. If I was right about at least Fisher threatening Ian, it's like, is he compelled to not be able to say, look, Fisher told me not to say this, not to bring it up? Like, is he held to not even mention that he just should not say it? Because he's worming around it in a way that also wouldn't satiate Spencer's interest. He's just saying it'll get you killed. But, I mean, if he worded it like, no, Fisher told me I can't tell you, so that's why, period. But there's a chance that Fisher didn't tell him he can't say anything. But it sounds like he really, really does know. And he was told not to. Because he sounds really confident. He's not just throwing conspiracies out. He's being precise for once. I'm barely able to keep my breathing steady. My stomach feels like it's being wrung inside out. Just tell me what it is, or what it was, so we can be done with it. You didn't kill anyone. I got my own damn self killed. And it won't happen a second time, I swear. Not gonna let it go, huh? Guess I tried my best. Because even Kurt folded. It's a frickin' forum post. That's what killed you, a forum post. Ian fumbles with his phone while scratching at his eyes with the sleeve of his jacket. I sort of remember a forum post 2 years ago. Teal fills up Ian's phone screen. His eyes dance around the page for a minute, but then he clicks the screen off and puts the phone back down. Was it showing his dead body? That couldn't have been it. Christ, okay. A couple of years ago, a bunch of shit went down like it was crazy. Shootings, a massive fire in the middle of downtown, the entire jury for a minor breaking and entering case all died in 3 separate accidents. Those are just 3 things that happened at the height of it, but they all happened within the span of 1 week. The police launched investigations on all of them, but as with everything else that's been happening, they ended up finding nothing. Thing is, the whole year has been like that. Was that when the car crash rate tripled? Yeah. You know about it? You told me. Oh. Right, of course. I see. You were asking me about it, and I was showing you bits and pieces of what we managed to dig up. There was a lot. That is, a lot of news articles were written during that time, and some of them went into great detail. There wasn't almost ever any follow-up, though. They'd report on something, and the police would find nothing, only for something else to happen after a few days to take everyone's attention away. That is what 2008 was like over here. And then it stopped, right? Yeah. Right before Christmas, everything stopped. You wanted to know about that. He softly clears his throat. We went through a lot of material. I can't remember how we got there, but it seemed like one case in particular got your attention, something that happened in April that year. A medical specialist from out of state had been called in to help the local sheriff's office. By that point, things have gotten scary bad. I was still in rehabilitation at the time, but I remember my mom asking me to never be out past 8. It seemed appropriate for the county to start bringing experts in. That was the first article. The second and last mention of that person in the media was a short excerpt in the middle of the longer opinion piece. The expert was missing, and the article's author presumed they were called back home. I let out the breath I'd been holding in. Was it Spencer? That doesn't tell me anything. I'm going to assume one of the experts was Spencer, but just a different one, maybe. About what? I mean, it doesn't ring any bells. I don't know why I'd do anything given this information, or why I'd do anything given this information. Oh. Well, thank you, Spencer, but there's more. Go on. Yeah, alright. Much later on, Jake, Todd's friend, ran into a series of forum posts that seemed relevant. It was in the general chatter section of the Hard Bend forums, which is the long-defunct Metalhead magazine. The post's author was a user going by GothVicer. With a 0 instead of an O, Jake tracked him down through the Institute's message boards where he used to use the same name. Is this going to be like a Steins Gate style John Titor? But instead of John Titor, it's Spencer, one of Spencer's mirror cells going as a different user, spilling his guts about not being a time traveler, but just simply Spencer's relevant self, according to this story, but basically possibly inspired by the same thing. This is another Neco theory being thrown out here. Is this a John Titor thing, but just without timelines and time travel and just mirror worlds? Jake tracked him down through the Institute's message boards where he used the same name. His real name is Antonio Ruiz, or Ruiz. Ruiz? I'm not good with pronouncing last names like that. Goddamn. Ruiz? And he never kept his name, or that he's from Rockland, a secret online. One of those what's the worst that could happen kind of folks, to give you some context. Antonio, or GothVicer, was a mortuary technician at Rockland County Memorial Hospital, and this guy, GothVicer, okay, never mind, maybe he's just, okay, let's just keep going. He loved nothing more than to complain to his little group of forum friends. If I remember right, he had like 7,000 posts, most of which came from that same general chatter subforum. As you imagine, exactly the kind of guy my group wishes for in our wildest dreams. He spoke at length about how this out-of-state goody two-shoes doesn't know the first thing about morgues or corpses. We learned from him that the guy was an ICU doctor. Apparently, police detectives showed up one day with him in tow without prior warning. GothVicer never gets specifics about what the ICU doctor wanted with him, but he does say that he had interviewed all the morgue's employees multiple times for multiple hours each time. This goes on for a couple of days, but eventually it seems the doctor runs out of questions, taking up space in the office while he's waiting for the feds to come pick him up. I believe was how GothVicer phrased it, something to that effect. A few days later, he reports that the doctor had stopped coming in. Here's the thing, though. GothVicer doesn't simply state that the doctor is gone. Given his personality, one would expect him to go good riddance and never mention again, but he does more than just that. He keeps mentioning it in passing over the next months, in an almost accusatorial way. Like small things, his favorite pen had gone missing from his shirt. He jokes that the doctor must have misplaced it weeks ago. Secretary was rude to him. The doctor must have spoken to her while he was there, when he inevitably got fired because his mental well-being had gone down the drain. You bet the doctor was to blame. We were enthralled to find the forum argument that ensued. That's how we knew we were on the right track. That's how it always goes. The calling card of our poltergeist. Something goes missing and then someone goes insane. A couple of forum members have a falling out with GothVicer over Skype. Oh god, a Skype name drop even, holy shit. We never found the logs for that, but thankfully they took it to the forums shortly thereafter. They're all incredibly rude to him in that moment, but I get the impression that they cared about GothVicer. They were trying to figure out what was wrong with him. Who was this damn doctor that he lost his mind over? GothVicer doesn't remember. That's another common thread among people like him. It's the same as with folks we interviewed ourselves. Does Fisher have the ability to memory wipe like Men in Black? That's another question. It's the same as the folks we interviewed ourselves. Everyone has a different trigger, a different thing that they obsess over, but when you ask them about it, it quickly becomes clear that they don't remember what it was. Ian pinches at his screen to zoom in. Just before getting banned for saying some racist crap out of nowhere, he gets into this huge argument that goes on for multiple pages. Pretty much everyone is convinced that the doctor is either an illusion or something that GothVicer made up. A bunch of his friends are begging him to seek professional help. With his back against the wall, he finally tells everyone what he actually remembers. As we expect, it is almost nothing at all, but he spills it out in one rambling post. Was the doctor or Vicer forced through the gate as a punishment? Or was he involved? Like, what would happen if it's like, What would happen if Fisher weaponized the gate in a way of, like, throwing people or using it as a means of jumbling people's memory or throwing them into a mirror world that is just fucked up? No idea. I'm just like, I'm going maybe too far off the handle, though, with my theories. I need more information, I guess. We tried reaching out to him, but he doesn't answer emails. He doesn't seem to use the same online handle anymore, and even the phone number he registered to the Institute with now belongs to someone else. So someone potentially within the feds or government was able to just take it over. Usually what happens whenever you find someone that is a fed or a fall guy, right? Every time you usually have like a shooter that try to kill someone important and they're a really questionable person, their online social media accounts get scrubbed and purged, and it's always completely suspicious, right? And you always have to question, okay, well, the government clearly contacted said website and demanded their information and credentials so they can take over the account, scrub everything, or they demand that the company or social media company gets rid of the information and they demand that they do it, or else the government themselves do it themselves, one or the other. But that happens in the real world, so I mean, it happening here just means those with authority are definitely, potentially coming in and scrubbing evidence. But what did the post say? He flips his phone screen side down on his thigh. You can see where I'm coming from though, right? This is some cool stuff. I was so excited to share it with you. And it isn't like this GothVicer guy. He's just one of half a dozen other people I've shown you, other online crazies just like him. How was I supposed to know that this one would be the one to make you lose your shit? What did the post say? Christ. See for yourself. Sorry, it's in Scruncho Vision. It's a screenshot off my PC. I am not on dope, Lamau. Are you 13? The XX made everyone without a master's degree shit in a cup twice a year. I'm cleaner than all of you fuckheads combined. Microwave, be a dear and actually read my previous post. Same with you, Gengar guns. I was thinking like Gengar, the Pokemon. Does this say anywhere that the doctor is talking to me? Didn't think so. What is not clicking? Why are none of you shitheads... why are none of you fuckheads believe something simple as a sociopath showing up and deciding to ruin my whole fucking life? It happens all the time. It could happen to you. It's almost like angry writing that Spencer would do. Like Spencer's flip-outs, right? It almost feels like it, right? Is it just me? Or am I completely wrong? It's kind of flipping the shit out. It's kind of the thing Spencer does a lot, but just in the real world, rather than on forum posts. But it happens all the time. It could happen to you. Actually, it should happen to you to teach you a lesson. Short guy, 40 or 50-year-old, blue suit and tie are a bit too big, high voice, nasty bloodshot eyes. There, I'm describing him. Is that doing it for you? Do you believe me yet? I literally only spoke business with him. Confidential stuff. I literally can't say what I was talking to him about if I ever want to find work again. Lol. I'll say this though. He was after someone. That was his number one problem that he kept talking about over and over. Completely unrelated to anything he was asking about, but he was losing sleep over it. Almost feel sorry for him. Almost, Lamau. I overheard him talking about it with some detectives on the first day before the interview started. He was after that man. No clue who that was. That would almost sounds like Spencer going after Fisher. In line with my theory, but I don't want to get carried away. You know, the guy looks like a fucking mess, and it's because someone in his dreams? And at work, you're supposed to be a nice guy. I asked him about it in the lounge. You know what he told me? The way he said it. It's like he rehearsed it 1,000 times. I'll never forget it until the day I die. He looked me dead in the eye and said, It is my worst and most frequent nightmare. That man has to be stopped. My theory is feeling like it's getting more and more true. I don't know, guys. Did you finish reading? Can I have my phone back? So, got any idea what that's all about? It's the fact that Spencer, on that evidence, on that post, it's reminder that Spencer really fucking wants to kill Fisher. Like, any insatiable anger that he has pent up, or desire or reason to kill Fisher, is all being erased. And anything that reminds Spencer of why he would even want to kill his grandpa, like I was saying. He wanted to lure him to the gazebo where Spencer A or B died, was because he desperately wanted to kill Fisher. But did Fisher at the time know that Spencer wanted him killed? Or did he always know that Spencer would want him killed and just took him out? And then scrapes every piece of evidence of why Fisher would be an enemy to Spencer, besides, like, if Spencer is a doctor, it kind of lines up, but everything that Fisher says more than likely is, again, like I was saying, if he's a well-written villain, he'd be lying and manipulating Spencer through half-truths and misguiding him with those half-truths. And the misguiding, what lines up completely is just that, where he's not allowed to learn why someone like Spencer would want to kill Fisher. Everything always happens in a way where Spencer is being kept in the dark on purpose, kind of thing, right? Just to keep Fisher safe, basically. But his higher-ups not wanting all Spencers to die is potentially a reality, or it's just that no matter what, either Fisher cannot kill all Spencers, or he's just not allowed to. One of those is probably a truth. But I'm thinking my theory is actually probably true. All of the sleepless nights, his bloodshot eyes, whenever Spencer's been angry and going the most crazy, his tired eyes, I'm picturing Spencer like an older person. Oh, sirens. I'm picturing an older Spencer who's been working with who's been working with Fisher for so long that old Spencer or dead Spencer's understanding was enough, and he had lived through a lot of sleepless nights and fuckery because of the experiments that he just wanted to kill his grandpa. Like I said, there had to be a strong enough motivation, but there's still a few missing pieces. Where are you going? There isn't anything around for miles. Oh god. Stop. You promised you wouldn't. I'll fucking run you over myself, you asshole. Was that enough information to just jolt Spencer to know what, like his anger, like Kratos level anger? Spencer. The man rang our doorbell 3 years ago, March 23rd, 2007, 8:53 p.m. He introduced himself as Nelson Fisher, born John Swain, a member of Rockland Looking Glass Veteran Association. Despite the late hour and the lack of prior notice, we let him in. We offered him water. Where was Rockland? Did he say John Swain? That was the name of my grandfather on my dad's side. Any relation? This man, Fisher, my grandfather, having entered the house, he spent barely any time at all before getting right to it. He knew us. He knew that Mom can't keep a job, and he knew that I barely managed to graduate high school. He spoke about our pasts, our recent pasts, private details that no one besides us should be able to recall. We were shocked, naturally, but the man predicted our protests word for word and rejected them before they even left our lips. Speechless, we were forced to let him explain. There's a wondrous device down in Rockland, a natural phenomenon entirely unique harnessed by man. It was the mechanism behind his nigh-divine ability to pull up the past and predict the future. I'm getting constant sirens and just... My God. Ambulances in this recording. God damn it. It was the mechanism behind his nigh-divine ability to pull up the past and predict the future. There had once existed a large-scale project surrounding the device. Its research and utility, hundreds of people ended up contributing to it. Hundreds of others like the man. Things, however, didn't last. The device had a great problem, and in the early 70s, the entire project had been permanently shut down. The longer Fisher's speech went on, the more passionate he became. He told us of the years following the project's closure, of administrative failure after administrative failure. The man was forced to change his identity, cut ties with his wife and infant son, live a life of anonymity. All to protect the project's secrecy. It had great military tactical importance after all. In return, he and every other person retiring from the project would receive a generous stipend that guaranteed never having to work a day for the rest of one's life. The Rockland Looking Glass Veteran Association was born. The man jeered the words out, called it a bribe from the government. A bribe that almost all his peers gladly took. And then the man smiled and apologized, inexplicably said that he never got this far, that he won't bother us for much longer, he must catch the flight back home. If it's Fisher talking, it's comparable to that of Spencer, so I'm going to assume the Fisher is using the device as a means to be able to predict pasts and future, but again, for an antagonistic purpose of if Spencer, with his friend in the Immemori, the gift he gave Ian 6 times, and it being a military operation, would you not think that someone like Fisher would show up and be a kind of person that would want to exploit it? Not just for military or, country's gain, but of a person who would be able to know and go around various loops or consequences where presumably, maybe if you even die in some cases, because one of the half-truths that is likely true is there's one dominant planet or one dominant mirror and the other's not. For whatever reason, he's probably killed Fisher. Fisher has probably killed Spencer, like I originally said, 100 times over. The problem is every time he tries to himself dominate and do something of his own will with the powers he gains, whether it causes him memory and anger issues or psychosis, it doesn't matter to him. What matters is the secrecy, and what matters is that he keeps it to himself like Golem in the Ring. The question becomes, how many times had Fisher had this conversation, like Spencer with giving Ian the gift, and he's doing all this to try to find a butterfly effect path where he can kill all the Spencers or keep them all ignorant, or he wants to find a way where he can understand which is the dominant world or when it is, so that if he is to silence someone, they won't show up the second day. Because it looks like since he has merged A and B, if that is true, the downside of that probably is that he won't know what discrepancies exist, he won't know what is the dominant planet or why, and more than likely he's probably killing people or had tried to, do so many reckless or evil things, and every single time he does, he keeps his memory, like he said. So he realizes which attempts failed, and he'll realize how many times he's likely killed Spencer, and he realizes which schemes and which plans won't work. Which is why he's probably just got so tired of being like, okay, well, I killed Kurt and Ian and Spencer, and every fucking time, the Groundhog Day theorem or theory, it's not that applies to Spencer. The Groundhog theory is applying to only Fisher. Fisher is an endless loop of trying to cover up his tracks while trying to proceed and progress through the world while remaining dominant, while not being caught, and while trying to retain the power to himself. And he's so tired of just doing the same thing over and over and over while forgetting and remembering. Like, he's probably... Fisher, if anything, probably has to have, I would imagine, some kind of negative consequence besides Kurt. And that's even if Kurt's memory is even an issue, or if it's just like a temporary symptom, and Fisher is just like trying to imply that your brains and intelligence are mush from the effects. It's either that's just like a person who's gone through the gates too many times, like Spencer or Fisher, or it's just a Fisher thing. And he's just keeping his cool, but there's a chance that Fisher himself likely is just like absolutely batshit insane, besides the fact that he's, you know, a homicidal maniac. But all this theory stuff is likely all true. So if I am true, do not spoil me and confirm it if you've already played the game. Do not even hint at me being right. But things are lining up, like the whole pieces, the jigsaw is lining up in my brain. And I could be still wrong, yes, but I'm getting super confident now. But I've been monologuing my theories, but that's good. It means I'm passionate about thinking about the story. I like that. So hopefully people don't mind me monologuing my rants. But I thank you for your time. He said that he never got this far, but yeah, that's the hint. He had conversations, but the conversations never went that far, because how many times has he done that conversation? That he won't bother us for much longer, he must catch a flight back home. Mom, ever the bravest, asked him, what do we have to do with it? The man replied that he's getting old, and he wishes to make up for the lost time. Oh, that's true. If he's wanting to retain power, he remembers everything. How many times has he gone through Groundhog Day while aging? And that is still, if Fisher himself isn't Spencer A or B. Fisher could still be Spencer A or B, but be the future Spencer. That's still possible. Like, again, we don't know if it's just A and B. We don't know if there's a third, but Fisher being a version of Spencer that Groundhog Day for so long that he's just an older version of himself because he's living through Groundhog Day. You have to imagine the movie Groundhog Day with, was it Bill Murray or something? Or not Bill Murray. I can't remember the name, but Groundhog Day, the movie. That realistically speaking, if you lived through Groundhog Day, you would age those days. Suddenly, you would be, like, if you started off as a 60-year-old boy, and like, in many cases, stories like that, either you age, you go back in age, is thematically something that can happen, but thematically, in Groundhog Day scenarios, you can also be a person where your age is kept and retained, because if his memory is retained, you can't just say that they go through a Groundhog Day, that yes, they do keep their memories, that Fisher says he kept his memory. You cannot keep your memory without also taking in consideration that he's also not just keeping his memory, but he's keeping his age, right? Because a lot of people might get confused and be like, oh, well, man, no, if he goes through Groundhog Day, you would think that, like, maybe it's like, say, he starts off 23 years old, born March 30th, and he goes Groundhog Day for a total of 20 years, but every single time he goes back, he'll just revert back a day. How many days has he not reverted back is the question. Because he could still be old Spencer named Fisher. That he's been, this passion project is young Spencer's passion project, but just for old Spencer, and old Spencer became Fisher. That's also a potential theory. But I'm going to keep that in mind. But that's another theory, my god. The man replied that he's getting old, and he wishes to make up for lost time. Lost time with the Groundhog Day. His former peers have steadily been diminishing in numbers. I wonder why. They have all lived quiet and unimpactful lives of isolation until the day they died, exactly as the administration had arranged for all those years ago. He wasn't planning on anything grandiose, far from it. Association members aren't allowed to exit Rockland, he explained. He had to utilize the device privately just to speak to us. What he wanted was twofold and relatively simple. Fisher wanted to reconnect with his family, and, more importantly, he wanted to pass down his knowledge of the Rockland Looking Glass. To his grandson. I remember it. That's quite enough, Mr. Fisher. Even if what you're saying is true, it's all so sudden. Please leave your number with us. When we reach a decision, we'll give you a call. What an insane proposition from an insane man. Leave our entire lives behind and move in with some stranger who'd done nothing but threaten us. Who in their right mind would agree to something like that? I mean, Spencer is the one that said he wanted to run away and reconnect with his mom. Fisher also seems to want to desperately reconnect with his family. Kind of lines up, if I process it as I have been. Which is cool. Oh, I remember it all right. We never called. It was him who called us. At first we brushed him off, made excuses as to why we can't speak tonight. But now isn't a good time quickly turned into, I've only got half an hour. Fisher and Spencer lining up as being the same person. Like it's either Fisher and Spencer have the same gift because both of them go through the gate a lot, or the answer is they're the same person. And by the author saying, leave our entire lives behind and move in with some stranger, they're referring to Fisher as a stranger? But this is supposed to be a grandfather, if this is still Fisher we're talking about. Or is it someone else and I'm getting confused? And them saying that he called us. I mean, whether coincidence or not, or correlation and not causation, Fisher and Spencer have their mom's telephone number. I mean, he's an agent, works for the government, yada yada. Of course, they'll know where they live, right? But you know what I mean, right? Narratively speaking. At first, we brushed him off, made excuses as to why we can't speak tonight. Many evenings when I would pass by the living room, I would overhear them chatting away. As the conversations grew longer, despite listening in to only one side of the call, I managed to piece some things together. The man had secured a fraudulent position at the Rockland County Clerk's office and was re-establishing ties with old colleagues in the town college. He never made attempts to hide his intentions. He wanted us in Rockland and made progress towards sweetening the deal. Over time, the now hour-long conversations grew heated. Even outside his boastful disregard of the law, the man had a strange outlook on society and on life. An outlook that became increasingly difficult to wave off as the ramblings of an out-of-touch retiree. I withdrew into my room. I couldn't stand the yelling. Why can't this felon take a hint? Why did he have to stick his nose into our lives? Then one day, the shouting had reached a boiling point. We received no more phone calls after that. A year later, Rockland was set ablaze. It was Mom who first discovered it. Fisher had presented himself as powerful and dangerous, and Mom hated getting blindsided by people like him. We observed in distant... We observed in distant curiosity as week after week, new strange occurrences would break local news. Despite the severity of the incidents, they would rarely reach the national level. And when they did, it was a comma, a statistical outlier on a marginally related graph. I looked it up online. In some communities, Rockland had become a bit of a joke, a backwater murder county where law enforcement is impotent and all the officials are corrupt. Dread got the better of us. It couldn't be him, could it? On November 1st, 2007, over dinner, we decided that we should call just in case. The daily shouting returned, stronger than ever. I mean, who's the one at all? There's only one person who really shouts and gets angry a lot, and that I've noticed, narratively speaking. That is Spencer. where he just loses and snaps. And I think the one that they're referring to that's speaking right now is still Fisher. It's still lining up, man. I'm getting more confident with my theory. On the evening it got unbearable, I decided to peek out of my room. Dad sat in the living room, eyes wide, expressionless, looking through the turned-off TV. When he spoke, it's like he intended only for the walls to hear. Wait. It would also line up with why Fisher probably likes all the gay shit that Kurt has on his phone. It still lines up. Fisher's familiarity with Kurt, or not just wanting to kill Kurt, or not perhaps killing Ian. If Fisher and Spencer are the same people, it would make sense that regardless of his insanity, all the friends that Spencer still likes, Fisher also does not kill conveniently. There's never been a dead body ever that's been Spencer's friends. Jokingly, I mean, of course, Fisher went through his phone during the food court scene, and he's like, nice stuff. The joke, at least internally in my mind, was that Fisher was not only digging through the investigation Kurt was making on Fisher and Spencer, aka what could be the same person, but the joke and gesture would be that Fisher's going through Kurt's phone and, being that they're either bi or gay or whatever, that Fisher could jokingly be like, oh yes, nice dick pics, Kurt. Not that I haven't seen that before, wink wink kind of thing, right? It just had that kind of potentially subtle gay like, if I'm completely wrong with my theory, I would laugh because of how deep I'm going into it. But goddamn, it does line up, doesn't it? And I do like theory crafting, because then when you are right, oh man, does it feel good. So, let's keep going. I'm sorry for pausing a lot, I'm sorry, but I do have to vent this out because my brain is gushing. My big fat brain, if it gushes, it doesn't happen often, right? I'm always neutral or lukewarm. I always keep my brain in idle mode because I overthink a lot. So if something forces me to think a lot, it means I'm excited. So that's a good thing about the game and this visual novel, because it means I'm being passionate. So please take it with consideration that if I'm ranting a lot, it means I'm passionate. And don't mistake my monologuing as being distracted or not shutting the fuck up. It is me being passionate, and I want to share this information and share my thinking with you all. So I hope you can understand it, for those that are my fans, of course. But, again, we'll get back into it. When he spoke, it's like he intended only for the walls to hear. The old man has gone insane, he said. He's erasing people off the face of the earth. I remember. Huh? Sorry you got dragged into it, Spencer. This is my fault. I'll take care of it, I promise. I'll find a way to sort it out. It sounds like something a person would say of a grown-up trying to tell his younger self he'd solve it. No, that's wrong. That's not what happened. I remember. The hospital Dad worked at, St. Mary's, refused to go through with the procedure. Kidneys aren't a rare organ donation, and it's not like the patient is in any critical condition. He just would wait his turn like everyone else. But Dad was adamant. He argued and yelled. He and the patient were a perfect match. He was in perfect health. The surgery was routine. In the end, we drove 30 miles to the South Memorial Hospital. It was the next best thing. Wait. Hang on. Wait, hospital? The hospital Dad worked at refused to go with the procedure, even though it was basic. Okay, Neco theory number 500. Did he get an organ transplant, but it was from Fisher? And it was made in such a way that it forced him to have to go to a specific location of Fisher's choosing? I could be completely proven wrong in the next 5 minutes, but that's another theory. He argued and yelled he and the patient were a perfect match. Fisher and his dad because they're blood related? dot dot dot. A throng of people showed up to Dad's funeral. If Dad hated Fisher that much and Fisher was willing to give his organ, and that was why Fisher would have demanded to help the dad, because if Fisher and Spencer are the same people, but in the future, because Groundhog Day, Fisher was trying to save his dad, but because he's so insane, he was being forceful and angry to the point where he pushed his father away. So if that's all true, it just means Spencer, who becomes Fisher in a Groundhog Day future, tried to save his dad and failed, thematically speaking, which is really kind of sad. Because you have an old man Fisher, who could be Spencer. Miserable, psychotic, insane, barely sleeping, and he's trying to, within his power, he's getting this divine power through the gate. He misses his family and can't even save his parents, because every time he tries to get close with his friends or his family, no one knows who he is. Fisher's just a stranger to them, and he can't tell anyone his real identity because no one will believe him. Fisher being a future Spencer who's the worst, shittiest luck, most fucked up version of Spencer, who cannot reconnect with his family anymore, while still trying to desperately clasp onto power, perhaps. Like, being an egomaniacal person is a potential, but it could just be a sympathetic villain also who is trying his best, but his insanity is getting the better of him. Because under this theory, it's either he's egomaniacal or he's insane and trying his best but failing at every single turn. It's one or the other within this theory. It's kind of, and if it's sympathetic villain route, then I can feel pity for Fisher in that case. Because in the Groundhog Day, like, right? Imagine being a person who, quote unquote, goes back in time. You're still a person who misses family, likes his friends, doesn't want to kill Kurt, doesn't want to kill Ian, doesn't want to kill his dad, wants to patch things, wants to keep people at a distance, but also wants to connect and misses them. And you have all this power, but also insanity, and you try to save your family members, but no matter what you do, no matter how powerful you get, or no matter how much meta information you get, your dad's going to reject your organ transplant. Your young self is going to hate the fuck out of you. Everyone's going to distrust and hate you or want you to be dead. And your own past self is trying to kill you because of how insane you are. If that's all true, that is a definite deep story. It causes me to even pause to think about it. Interesting, though. But alright, let's keep going. This is going to be a long video because of my ranting, I do apologize, but now I'm getting into it. And especially if I thought up the whole fucking rest of the story, but wait, I don't even know how much longer the game is. Okay, let's get back into it. I'm getting a little excited. The people whose lives he saved, childhood friends and colleagues, even a couple of people who he sometimes helped getting their meds refilled. It was only then that I found out what happened. Mom had no idea how to explain it to a 10-year-old child. He didn't have to die, some of the attendees told me. It was his damn personality. Dad was always pulling stunts like that, and it was only a matter of time until it got caught up with him. One person even got on one knee to console me at eye level. Their sentiment was similar to that of everyone else. What a waste. A couple of weeks later, the last person helping Mom out stopped showing up to our house. That is what I remember. I remember it clearly, but... Amy Spencer. I'm flying down to Rockland tomorrow morning. I can't stand it any longer. I can't think. I can't focus on anything besides it. He's the reason I can't sleep. I don't care anymore if what he claims is true, that he really is my long-lost father. What is he's doing to that town? It has become my worst and most frequent nightmare. That man has to be stopped. But is that what the dad's saying, or what Spencer's saying? This white font can't be Spencer if he's a 10-year-old. Or is this... I have to... It depends on whose fucking font this belongs to. That man has to be referring to Fisher. But who's saying this? I'm presuming it's the dad, and not Spencer. But I'm not going to presume that Spencer and Spencer's dad and Spencer's granddad are all the same person. That'd be fucking hilarious. Like, just imagine this hypothetical. Or imagine, like, Spencer... Spencer's like this incest baby, where it's just like Spencer's grandpa is actually Spencer, and Spencer's dad is actually Spencer, and Spencer is also Spencer. Spencer fucks his mom, Spencer fucks his grandma, and the Spencer that we know right now is the incest baby of 3 generations of Spencers who's lived through Groundhog Day fucking time continuum breakages or some shit like that. That'd be fucking hilarious. It's like that whole the Futurama thing where Fry's his own grandpa or some shit, but just like the furry version. Oh, okay. Yeah, but who's saying that? Was it the dad or was it young Spencer? I think it was the dad, right? That's funny. Because Spencer says that. That can't be right, can it? I was 10 when Dad died, so... either 10 or 11. 1998, for sure. I remember. Was it spring? The leaves, they were... July? No, that wouldn't make sense. When did Dad die? I remember it. It was so cold when they told me. Late evening. No, the lights were... Say, when did Dad die? Hey, snap out of it. Just say it. No one could forget something so important. When did it happen? Come on, ballpark estimate. First thing that comes to mind. Just recall it real quick. When was it? When did Dad die? People handle grief in interesting ways, don't they? Some are overcome with anger, lashing out with little regard for themselves or those around them. Some, less emotional, take a more methodical approach, and seek to hold whoever is responsible liable to their actions. Others refuse to accept the presented reality and look for deeper answers. Others still take it as an opportunity to better themselves in case they could prevent a future misfortune. That sounds like a person like me. I like to do the latter. I'll butt my heads with conflict if it means seeking and finding resolutions, so that my hypervigilance means that such a problem will never happen again to myself or those around me. Because if I'm hypervigilant and I become aware of a problem and figure out the solution, the only time that solution won't work is if my being or myself fuck it up in some way, right? If your memory becomes bad from age, dementia or otherwise, no matter how powerful, no matter how smart you are, no matter how vigilant you are, grandfather time always comes for us, right? And then you'll start forgetting. And no matter what you plan, no matter what you scheme, if you don't have your memory intact, if you don't have your sanity intact, if you don't have the means intact, you can't protect or save anyone. I'm getting a little bit more sentimental about this. It's personal, too. A little bit. And then there are those who obsess, those who spend years and years condemning the victim in blind belief that they could have prevented their own death, telling themselves that their lives would have been so much better had the victim not died. I'd imagine that such people, once they snap out of it, must feel like right idiots, spending so much of their life on a premise that may not even be true. A sheet of light glows brightly on my arms as I make my trek. Not a cloud in the sky. The air is warm and stifled, as if it gorged itself on deli meat and is now worried it'll hurl if it moves too fast. It's 9 a.m. on a Thursday. Such a weird nothing time. Everyone's already either at school or work or had altogether decided that the day is not worth it. There's no one around to avoid eye contact with. The only sound is the shuffle of the occasional car in some nearby street. I think I'll leave it here, though. Amongst all my ramblings... Amongst all my ramblings, there's still a lot of content we went through. And again, I do apologize for my Neco rants in this episode. I know I have ranted a lot more, but again, I don't want people to misunderstand me. It is purely out of a passion and interest of when I immerse myself. Like, think of it like this. When you immerse yourself in a game or something you love or a book, I'm kind of the same way where if I get immersed, a different side of me will show up where I will get so immersed. My biggest, strongest weapon in my mind is my mind. And that's not because of brain bias, mind you, but rather, since my educational background is psychology, most of the way I deal with life and scenarios is to think and think and think. And so when I'm passionate about something, I tend to want to think more about it. Things that don't interest me, I don't want to think about it. Not because it bugs me or anything, but it's just a lack of interest. And when I'm not interested in something, you will absolutely know it. I become so disassociated and uncaring about the things I don't care about. It's like I'm an extreme polarity where I will extremely hate or extremely love something. And when it comes to at least interests and genres in media or things like that or games, it's not always hate as in hate, but rather, you know, like indifference. I'm exceptionally indifferent to the things I don't care about or to the things that don't interest me. Some people might give you a chance or, you know, give more leeway to trying new things. But for me, it's like I'm very, very decisive with my interests. So the best way I could explain it, just so people understand me better, just because I want to get it out there, a little sentimental, like I said, is if I am thinking a lot, explaining a lot, contemplating a lot, that means I am immersed, because I will use my brain. Like, it's too long, don't read. If I don't care, I don't use my brain. I turn it off. I reserve my energy for more important things. If I don't care about it, or if it's too stressful, I legit just turn my brain off. I just don't care. But the polar opposite is also true, that if I love something a lot, I can't stop thinking about it. I also become somewhat obsessed. I don't get obsessed over things easily, though. It takes some time, or it takes understanding, or it sometimes is instant, and it just makes it so I have to understand everything about it, and I want to think about everything about it, every angle, every interpretation, every perception. I will want to wring out every single thought that can be had about something once I become immersed into it. Equally so, if I like anime, if I like people, I will know everything about that person. I will know everything about that anime. I will know everything about that hobby. I will do every little bit of research, almost to an obsessive degree, just so I could be a person that'll be just like, oh yeah, that? Oh hey, Berserk? I know probably most trivia. I'll use my autistic brain to obsessively remember every little trivial detail with my photographic and borderline Wikipedia-like encyclopedic brain. I'll remember that shit until I die. And that causes a lot of stress, mind you. Like, that's why I don't like to think about things that aren't relevant, because I use my big fat Sergal brain to just think and think and think and think and think. When I sleep, I think. When I eat, I think. When I'm recording these episodes, I'm still thinking. But the only time I turn off my brain is, when I am bored and there's nothing to think about, or it's just not important enough to think about, or it's not interesting enough to think about. But, which is why it goes back to the point, I really do like this visual novel because it makes me think. And when I get immersed in something and can contemplate and think, and let's say the time it takes for me to be right about something, it's almost like a psychological cat and mouse chase, right? Where there's this chunk of cheese that's like an obstacle or a mental obstacle or a narrative obstacle that's just right in the distance and I can't reach it. My brain will get enticed and be like, okay, well, I want to contemplate. For me to get that cheese, my brain will only reward me with the cheese that is the essence of being right, or the essence of figuring a solution, to have that intellectual dopamine rush of being right or of being of sound mind. That I only feel that when I'm thinking a lot and I'm given enough resistance and like, it goes back with what I was talking about good writing, right? If a good writer can keep me clung, or, if a good writer can have me around their pinky finger because I can't think of the story, I can't predict the story, or I can't conceive of how something will end, because when I watch a movie or play a game or record a video, I will be thinking what will happen 5 steps ahead from now. Like, if I'm having a conversation, I'll think about what the person I'm talking to, what their response will be. I will always be thinking about everything a person might say, might not say, and every single variable I can conceive of, I'll have probably thought up of. So one of the things that truly interests me as an individual is when, no matter how much I probe or question things, I don't find the answers, which can be both either an annoyance or it can be a pathway to a revelation that makes me excited. Because it's something to work forward to, right? If it's a story that you can't figure out and it's just teasing you of a solution or an ending or a gratifying moment that is just out of reach, then it teases your brain to want to figure it out and stick with it, right? And only truly competent, talented people can bring that out of me, of making me crave and desire and want to think and contemplate all the pathways, all the timelines, all the variables of, oh, what will happen? Who is Fisher? Who is Spencer? What is the likely theory? Which theory is wrong and why? Which lines up more? I'm always thinking. Even if I'm not explaining what I'm thinking, my brain is going a mile a minute every fucking second of the day. But again, it goes to show, if you can cause me to think, but not to come up with a predictable outcome that just ends up being true, that's boring. I hate when I'm right. Being wrong is extremely fucking refreshing to me because of this, and it's not a flex. To be wrong, or to think so much and end up being wrong, there's like a part of me that's like an inner scientist, right? Where I'll contemplate and observe the symptoms, observe the causation, correlation, and observe the results. But if I can't come up with an answer, it's either infuriating or it's ecstasy to me. I love being wrong for this very reason, which is why no matter how many theories I'll throw, if I'm wrong, don't think that makes me embarrassed. Don't think that makes me ashamed. I'll be like, wait, I'm wrong? Oh, okay, now we're in for it. If I'm wrong, what was the right way? How come I didn't think of it first? Right? It excites me when I'm fucking wrong. And I don't know how many people will understand or agree with me on that, but that is how I work. And I don't know, if people understand me better and my inner complexities, then all the better. I love being wrong for that very reason. It's so refreshing. And if a story can keep me entranced while also making it so I don't know the full ending, like if I just presumed, oh, hey, it's Groundhog Day, and then I beat the game and it just ends up being, oh, it's just Groundhog Day, no other complexity, no other, like, nothing thorough, nothing crazy, nothing throwing me for a loop, I'd be bored and disappointed as shit. Which is all the more reason, back to the point, we're weaving around here, if you can cause me to goddamn think this much and want to rant a lot and be passionate, you've done a good job. Because a person like me who thinks about everything and everything, if you bore me, it's because I probably predicted everything about what's going to happen. And it bores me. That's just how I work. My autism or ADHD just makes me be hyper vigilant to all things all the time, 5 steps ahead of things. It's like if I played chess, I'd be the kind of person who tries to plan 8 steps ahead. I hate chess though, because I don't want to use my brain to constantly think so many steps ahead for trivial reasons. I only turn on my brain to think 8 steps ahead if I'm excited, to reserve my brain's resources. And that is genuinely how I work. Like, again, not a flex, not a boast, not a, oh, look at me, I'm so smart, I'm like Kira from Death. No. It's just how my brain operates. I love psychology. I love trying to dig into the mysteries of things, but only if I can get my hands dug into it, and only if I don't think I'm going to be led to disappointment. So again, great job to the developer of this. I like not being disappointed, and I like being able to feel refreshed, and that dopamine rush of, I mean, we're not at the end, but again, once we reach the end, I'm confident I'll be like, oh, now everything makes sense, which is why when we got all these information dumps as we get closer to the end of the game, these information dumps are exciting me, because it's like, oh, this validates what I said before, and oh wait, this is slightly different than what I conceived of, and I didn't think of it this way. It excites me. It doesn't happen often. I treasure these moments because of how infrequent these feelings of passions are for me. Because feeling indifferent for so long, honestly, it's like a personal Neco rant, but feeling indifferent for so long because so little things interest my mental or intellectual appetite. And again, I'm not saying this to be some fucking, oh, I'm so smart snob, but it's just how my brain works. Like, I can only sleep when I'm tired. I can only be interested when my brain says it's interested. I am kind of a slave to my own brain's interest, where if it doesn't show interest, it's hard to fake it. So I just don't bother. It's why when I tell people I am blunt and to the point, it's because it's just the fastest way of being genuine and honest. To beat around the bush means you're hiding something. I have nothing to hide, because being blunt and forward is the quickest way to the quickest solution of being understood, and to elaborate on things, because then people are more up to date and more informed of reality in a way, right? This is going to be a really big philosophical rant at the end of it, but I hope for those that like these conversations, they will enjoy it and enjoy the monologuing. And it's a kind of a Neco personal rant too. Like I said, I felt a little bit more sentimental, and maybe also because my own dad passed away when I was young. So having talks about, parents that died, it kind of is a little bit a soft spot, admittedly, but it's not the whole picture. Just for my dad, it was a heart attack, mind you, not liver transplant or kidney transplant or anything like that. So you can't, heart transplant or spine transplant, the kind of things my dad needed. But if I was in a position like, which is why I was saying it was getting a little sentimental for me, I wouldn't blame someone like Fisher. If I was living in a Groundhog Day and I knew my dad was going to die, and my groundhog version or future and past self merged in a way where I knew when my family was going to die and I wanted to try to save them, I was getting a little bit emotional there when I was explaining that, because I can understand that at a thematic depth, a symbolic depth, an emotional depth. Because, in Fisher's shoes, if my theory is true, how would you feel knowing that your loved ones would just die, no matter what Groundhog Day knowledge you have? I would try to save my dad, of course. But That's why for me, I can grasp how that feels because I have lost loved ones. And those that understand that will know what I mean. So which is why I was getting all sentimental. So some more Neco trivia. But with that said and done, I'm done ranting. I do thank you for those that have listened to me to the very end. I don't often go into this kind of personal rant, but I have nothing to lose, frankly. And I'm passionate about explaining things, and I'm always passionate about explaining things. And I'm always passionate about explaining things, especially if it means people can understand me better. Because I don't see myself as the smartest person in the world, far from it. But I would recognize I am a very complex person. I just chalk it up as being autistically like, I'm the most autistically... the smartest dumb person, perhaps, kind of thing, right? I'm fine with that, rather. Like, I have my moments of being really stupid, I have my moments of being really smart, but that can be for a lot of people. But otherwise, again, thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed. We'll continue on the game. Hopefully the game will end in the next 5 minutes in the next episode, but I hope you enjoyed. There's definitely a lot more info dumps I feel like we need to be given. So I don't think we're going to be ending in the next 1 hour or 2 hours. I don't know. I have no idea. I didn't spoil myself to know when it's going to end, but we'll end it here. And I hope you enjoyed my ranting. And hey, if you did, or if you have anything you'd like to say about my rants, or if you have any memories or things in common you'd like to share, then please leave it in the comments below, and I will, of course, read them in due time. And if you have anything, of course, to say or respond, or personal thing, sentimental thing in kind, I will be sure to read that. But again, if you enjoyed, please leave a like, comment, hit the subscribe button, become a fellow subscriber, hit the notification down below for updates on my videos. Thank you for watching, and until the next time.